Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how to create an AMI out of an existing EC2 instance. So for that, what we'll do is we will start up an EC2 instance. We will make some changes in the raw image that we get with EC2. We will create our own private AMI out of it, and then finally we will launch another EC2 instance from that AMI that we have created with the changes. Go to the EC2 instance or the EC2 service and make sure you select the region from the drop down here. I am currently in US East region, but you can select any region that supports EC2 service. Now once you land on its dashboard, you can see there are no running instances right now. So I'm going to create a new instance and I am going to select Amazon Linux AMI. You can select any one that you are more comfortable with. This particular image comes with a set of pre-installed tools like Python, Ruby, Perl, and Java. So I tend to use this for most of my programming purposes. So let's go ahead and select that. Now once you select that, you would need to choose what type of EC2 instance you want. So I'm going to leave it at t2.micro here, and I'm going to click on configure instance details. Now I just want one instance to be spinned up. I do not want any auto scaling group right now. I do not want a spot instance as well. Next, we need to choose what VPC we need to spin this EC2 instance in. So I do not have any VPC created for this particular account. So you can see there is just one VPC, which is the default VPC that AWS provides you when you create your AWS account. Now subnet, US East 1 has 6 subnets, so you can choose if you want to spin up your EC2 instance in one of the subnet, or you can just leave it as default and one of the subnet would be picked up randomly. Now coming to auto assign public IP. Now if you do not have public IP, then you will not be able to SSH into your EC2 instance. So I will keep this as enable, but if you have like spinning up an EC2 instance into a private subnet and you do not want an external access to this instance, then you should probably select disable. But for this video, I'm going to leave it as enable. Again, we do not want placement groups. We do not want to set any explicit IAM role. Now, if you want to do something specific with your EC2 instance, for example, access S3, download a file from S3, upload a file from S3, then you will have to create an IAM role that gives access to upload and download to the S3, and then finally assign IAM role to your EC2 instance. But you don't have to worry about it. If we do need to change the IAM role, what we can do is we can later change the IAM role after it is spinned up. So once that is done, you can select shutdown behavior. Now for shutdown, we just want to stop it, but if you want to terminate it, then you can select that this drop down. So I will leave it as stop. Again, there are a couple of other settings like termination protection, monitoring. I'm just going to leave it as default because I do not need accidental termination protection or detailed CloudWatch monitoring, so I'll leave it as it is. Again, I'm going to leave advanced details as empty as well, but if you have any scripts that you want to run as startup, then you can give that here. For example, let's say you want to install a certain program when you start up an AMI, then you can provide that over here, but let's leave that all of that as default for now. Now coming to add storage, you can see by default it has provided you 8 GB of general purpose SSD GP2 volume type, and it is not encrypted, and it has delete on termination turned on. So what I'll do is I'll add another volume of type EBS, and obviously we don't want to create it from a snapshot. We will leave it at 8 GB general purpose SSD, and let's just select delete on termination. So what happens when you terminate your EC2 instance? So if this is checked on, then your root volume will get deleted when you terminate your EC2 instance, but your new EBS volume will not if you have unchecked this checkbox. But I want this EBS volume to get deleted as well when I terminate the EC2 instance. So I have turned on this checkbox. But if you have some valuable data that you are going to store in the EBS volume, then I would recommend not to select this tag. So let's go to next add tags. I generally add name. Let's call it my test EC2 instance, and let's go ahead and select security groups. Now I'm going to create a new security group. I'm going to call it my SSH security group. Let's just copy it over here. For now, I'm going to allow everyone to access port 22 in this particular security group, but ideally you should give your IP address here, whatever your IP address is, and then add /32, which means that only your IP address is allowed. So let's click review and launch. It will warn you that your security group is open to well, but that's fine. So you can quickly review if you want to, and then just click on launch. So let's see if I do not have any existing key pair in this particular region, I guess. So I will create a new key pair, and let's call it my key pair, and I'll just say download key pair, and let's just save it on the desktop. Once it is saved, let's just click launch instance. So now you can see that this EC2 instance is being launched, and you can see it is currently in initialization phase. But if you scroll a bit down, you can see that it has already been assigned a public IP, which we can use to SSH into this instance. Now, if you would have set the public IP as disabled while creation of the EC2 instance, you would not have seen this. You can see a bunch of other stuff as well. For example, you have what type it is, t2.micro, which availability zone. So there were 6 availability zones we saw, and it has pinned up into one of it, which is US East 1A. You can see what security group it is in, and a bunch of other stuff that is related to your EC2 instance. So we have our EC2 instance up and running. So what we'll do now is we will try to connect to this EC2 instance. To do that, open your console, go to desktop where I have my PEM key, and to connect, simply select your EC2 instance, click on action and click on connect, and it will give you the command to connect to your EC2 instance. And once that is done, just paste it over here, and you can see that it will automatically connect to your EC2 instance, right? So once that is done, let's try to see if git program is installed, and you can see that git is currently not installed. So what I will do is I will do yum install git, and I'll do a sudo, and yes please, and you can see that git is now installed. So our git is now installed on this particular EC2 instance. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just exit from this EC2 instance, but this EC2 instance now has git installed, and I wanted to create a new image out of this EC2 instance, so that whenever I spin up new EC2 instances from this image, I have git pre-installed from it. So to create an image, you need to click on actions, go to image, and then click on create image. Now in this, you need to give image ID, image description, and you need to select what all volumes you want to use to create an image, right? Now a couple of things to note here is that you get an option here to select if you do not want to reboot your machine, but if you select that, then AWS won't guarantee the integrity of the image. So if you hover over this eye, you can see that when this option is used, file system integrity on the created image cannot be guaranteed. So make sure that you do not select this checkbox if your AMI is really critical. But if you do not select it, then AWS will go ahead and reboot your EC2 instance that is running once before it can create the instance, right? And also make sure that you use both of this volumes to create an image, and the moment you click on create image, it will create an AMI out of this particular image. But what I feel is faster is you can go ahead and terminate this instance, just say stop, and once it is stopped, when you create an AMI out of it, it is much faster. So let's wait for this EC2 instance to stop, and then we can continue. Okay, so you can see that this EC2 instance has stopped. You can go to volumes and see that there are 2 volumes present. One is the root volume, and one is the EBS volume of 8 GB that we attached to this EC2 instance. So if you go back to EC2 dashboard, running instances, there is no running instances, there is one in stop state. Now let's go ahead and create an AMI out of it. So click on image, create image. I'll just say my get image, and Again, no need to reboot because this is already stopped. All of these are fine. Let's just click on create image. Now once you click that, it will try to create an image asynchronously. So you can go to AMIs and see that your image creation is in process. And once it is complete, you can see that status as you will see the status as completed over here. So meanwhile, a couple of things that I want to tell you is that when an AMI gets created, it will also create a snapshot of each volume. So if you go to snapshots, then you can see that it has already created a snapshot of one particular volume, and it is creating the snapshot of other. And once both are done, we can see that the AMI would be done as well. So you can simply copy the AMI ID and you can go back to snapshots and you can search it here, and you can see that it is the same AMI snapshots that these are, right? So we will wait for both of these to be completed, and then we will see that the AMIs are created. So let's wait for this AMI to get created and then we will proceed. Okay, so our AMI is ready, and if you go back to snapshots, you can see that both snapshots are completed as well, right? So whenever you create an AMI, you will have an entry into the AMI section, and also you'll have snapshots of the volumes along with it, right? So if you go back to AMI, you can see that your AMI is already created. Note that it is private, so it will only be visible to you and nobody else. You can choose to share it with a particular AWS account, but again, it is still private, right? So another thing that I wanted to tell you is that this AMI is specific to this particular region. So if you want to spin up EC2 instances in some other region, then you need to copy this AMI to that particular region and then use that copied AMI to launch EC2 instance in that region. And to do that, you can just click on action, copy AMI. You can select which region you want to copy it to, and then just select copy AMI to copy that particular AMI to that region. But what I'm going to show now is I'm going to launch up another instance using this image. So let's click on launch, and again it will still ask you to go through the steps. Only this time it will pick up configurations that we have already set. So this is fine. Configure instance details. Again, this is same as what we have as storage. Now here you can see that it is already picking up the snapshot that we have given, right? Before, when we created a new EC2 instance from scratch, this was all new, but now it is trying to use the snapshots that we already have, right? And you can see that it has picked up the same settings that we had used for earlier EC2 instance. So let's keep all of this as default. Click on next tags. This time I'm going to say name and my get EC2, right? And now let's just click on configure, and this time we will use our security group, which is our SSH security group, review and launch, and let's just click on launch. Now this time I already have a key pair that is generated, so I'll use this key pair and I'll just select launch instances. Now we have launched an EC2 instance using the AMI that we have created. Again, let's wait for this EC2 instance to be up, and then what we will do is we will SSH into it, and then we should have Git already installed in this EC2 instance. Okay, so we have our EC2 instance up and running. Let's try to go ahead and connect to it. So again, click on action, connect, and copy this particular command. Go back to your console, go to desktop, and just paste this command, and make sure you use EC2 user and press enter. And since you are logged in now, let's just go ahead and try the git, and you can see that it shows you git command help, right? So that, which means that git is already installed for this particular EC2 instance. So to summarize, we created an EC2 instance, we SSH'd into it, we saw that git was not installed on this particular instance, we went ahead and installed git on it. Then we created an image out of this instance, and finally we launched another EC2 instance using this particular AMI, and we can see that the new EC2 instance launched from the AMI has already get installed. So if you happen to have such a use case in which you need a bunch of stuff that you need in your EC2 instance in production, then it's a good idea to create an image out of it and then use it behind an auto-scaling group to spin up a new instances of EC2 and then use it in your production server, right? And you can in fact use user data scripts as well to do some of your initializations, for example starting up your servers, downloading stuff from S3 and stuff like that. But this is super useful, right? So in the next video I'll show you how to delete an AMI successfully from your EC2 dashboard. So stay tuned. Thank you.